Welcome to Pulse of Tech by SEAP. Today, join Parijat Sardesai, Senior Director of Technology at Globant, as he dives into the world of AI with Murari Ramuka, a data and AI expert powering cutting-edge AI applications, from transformers to real-world impact. This is an episode you don't want to miss. Let's jump right in as Parijat kicks off the conversation with Murari.
So Murari, let's start with the basics. What is an LLM?
Okay, so since you asked basic, I will again go with a very, very basic thing. As a human, what do we need? Attention. So it all started with attention. So there's a paper published by Google back in 2017 called Transformer. And the title of that paper is Attention is All You Need. As a human, we all need attention, and that's what the concept has been boiled in LLM. LLM stands for Large Language Model, which foundationally work on understanding the human-based language, which was a breakthrough which made in AI space. There were so many models, and AI is not a new space. We know that AI is like 70-year-old technology, but what led to LLM and why people are like jumping around it? So the biggest, I would say, the breakthrough which made in the LLM industry or in the generative AI world was via Transformer. Transformer has enabled technology to understand the human-based language, human understanding, and then based on that generate the content. It can go ahead and generate the content, it can go ahead and summarize the content, and can help you to automate a task.
Okay, so perhaps it is like a virtual assistant, right? What was it that made you interested in this field or spark this interest of yours in this field?
Definitely, you can say that it's a virtual assistant because most of the use case of LLM is towards the chatbot, summarization, etc. For me, when this technology started, I think back in 2022, mid somewhere like April, May times, right? And suddenly there was like 5 million registration on ChatGPT within 7 days. I thought, okay, what is this? Let's explore. And that's where I got the interest of learning and picking up these technologies. When I started picking it up, looks like to our audience it's pretty simple, but it is too deep when it comes. It works on self-attention mechanism. There was technologies like RNN, recurrent neural network, LTSM, long short term memory. These were the technology initially used to solve the NLP problem. Okay. But the challenge with that technologies was they take only one word at a time. So if I am saying Parijat is senior director with Globant, it should have a single sentence to preserve the context. Otherwise, there are so many Parijat, right? So what it started with the transformer is you can feed a complete sentence, complete text, and with that it can preserve the context, understand the positional encoding, and then generate the content based on that context which has been fed.
Okay. So Murari, you spoke about transformers. Can you, just go even a little more into the deep dive of this technology?
Sure. So as I said, transformer is the foundational technology for LLM, right? And it works. So in transformer there are multiple components. So it starts with encoder. So whatever we pass, the complete sentence is encoded into a vector specific number, which we call it as a weight, right? It contains 3 key components, which is key, value, and context, which is query. Based on that, there is a softmax function which generates a weight for that particular sentence, and then based on that weight, you go ahead and try to find out that what is the nearest match, and then there is a decoder which comes into the picture and then respond you for that particular specific question. So if I maybe consider it at a very high level, it has encoder, decoder, self-attention, softmax, and couple of other components, which makes it like a very powerful technology which can understand human-based context and human language.
So basically you are saying that it is more and more mimicking human behavior, right? Any fun example which will, I know we spoke about a lot of technical terms, so any fun example which will make our listeners understand it at a high level also?
Sure, sure. So see, I always give this example, and I'm not sure how many of audience are having kids, but definitely they will have a grandparents. So if you need to go ahead and explain the kids and grandparent, right, how we call it as a prompt in LLM world, right? So if you need to go ahead and explain to your kid that what you do in your IT work, you want to make it as simpler as that, right? So you will say that I go open the laptop, I check my email, etc. So think of LLM is explaining the thing in the simpler world so that it can understand the context, and based on that it can generate the output. Okay, so think that you are explaining it to your grandparents or to your kid, and that's where the prompt writing starts.
Okay. Let's shift our focus to LLMs and how do they function. So, if you could throw some light on that.
Okay, so see, we were talking about LLMs only, right? So from functioning point of view, as I said, LLMs are primarily meant to solve the challenges which basically comes from a NLP world. NLP stands for natural language processing. So if you want to generate a marketing content, right, it will take a lot of time for you. If you want to write an email, generally, and that is one of the very important use case which I have seen in current world,
Yes.
that most of the emails are generative AI generated, right?
Yeah, and we can recognize it.
Yes. So how does the functioning of LLM works is basically try to understand the context. It is started, as I said, is attention is what you need. So it works on trying to find out the next word depending on to the positional encoding, and that's where it keeps generating the text depending on to the vector which it has been fed as a part of input. So that is pretty interesting, I would say, deep dive if we want to go ahead, right? But at a very high level, as I said, it works on the transformer concepts which consist of encoder, decoder, self-attention mechanism.
So, AI, and you just said that AI technologies have been there for like half a century now. So, what is it? What are these standout features of LLMs which are gaining so much of traction nowadays?
Sure, and I think that's where the world is changing, right? So as I said, and you also rightly said, that AI was there. Okay, people used to do the training, testing, model validation, model deployment, retraining, etc., right? And there are so many use cases, I think, across the industry which has been solved by traditional AI. By the way, now it is called as traditional. So good to know that. So with LLM, what happened? As an AI engineer, I need to spend a lot of time to develop the model. Could be 2 weeks, could be 2 months, or even could 6 months. With generative AI, it enabled each user to go ahead and start playing on top of AI. You don't have to go ahead and build a model. You are using it as a consumer. And that is a big difference. People was very keen to use AI technology in their day-to-day work. And with generative AI and LLM, it try to integrate it into your day-to-day work. And you go ahead and use it. I think most of our audience must be using it.
Yes.
For some of the tasks could be summarization, could be feeding a large PDF and getting the insights, because I know that
Kids these days.
Yeah. And even I think I speak to a lot of colleges, they use it for their assignments and everything. So it is changing the world, okay, and definitely LLM, as I said, is quite different from the technology point of view when it comes to traditional AI.
So, other than that, prompt engineering these days is one of the most spoken about topics, right? And you spoke about tokens, you spoke about context. Would you want to summarize all of this under the prompt engineering paradigm?
Sure. Thanks for this question. Again, if I go back, right, I told you that the human-based understanding, right? So LLM carries the human-based context understanding. So if I am saying that, please help me to generate a poem, LLM understands what is a poem. And when you talk about context is nothing but the ask or the chain of thought which you have given in that particular sentence when you are asking a question from a LLM. So that is what a context is. Now let me come to token. Token generally is consist of a single word. So if I am asking, please help me to write a poem, it could be like 5 to 6 words. It may not be one-on-one definition, but generally one word equal to one token. And when the LLM started, the biggest challenge was the number of tokens. I still remember the first model has a capacity of 4K token, 8K token. What does it mean is in one go you can only pass 8,132 words if it is 8K token. So these are the two things, right? You spoke about a very good point, which is prompt engineering. Nowadays, I will be very honest with you. I was looking into one of the job description, and it says that you need 8 years of experience into prompt engineering. So maybe going forward, what we will see is the new programming language will be the prompt engineering. And people think that it's pretty simple, though it is not.
Has prompt engineering been alive for 8 years?
That's what, right? So maybe organizations are now looking forward for a person who may have started prompt engineering before that. I'm not sure, right? So that's what I was trying to say, right? But if I talk about the prompt engineering, right? Prompt engineering is not pretty straightforward. People think like it's like writing a simple English, but no. There is a chain of thought. There is a concept of called chain of thought. And as I said in my previous example, that think of educating it to your kid or to your grandparent. So you need to make it as simple as possible by preserving the context throughout the conversation. And that is what the prompt engineering is. If your prompts are not good, your output will definitely hallucinate. And definitely there is a problem with LLM which is called as hallucination, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, we'll talk about hallucination, but firstly going to the context part of it. Now it seems that the context is a very important part of prompt engineering. So there are some limitations with that also, as we all know. Would you want to talk about the context bit of it a bit more?
Sure. And I will start with an example. Consider I have written a simple prompt into my LLM saying that who is the Prime Minister of India? And it responded Murari Ramuka. Is it wrong? No. Why it responded that is your question does not have a complete context. If you will say that who is the current Prime Minister of India, definitely it can respond saying that Narendra Modi. But since you have not given the complete context to your previous question, it generated some random output. Sometimes people refer it as a hallucination, but again, it's for my, if I think at, internally it's not a hallucination. It is something Murari Desai was already a Prime Minister of India.
So it's not a wrong output.
It's not a wrong output.
Correct. So context limits us with the capabilities of LLM. So we have to be very precise with our context, right?
That's very, very correct. So until unless you will put the context, and if you will not say to your kid to bring the sports shoes, he can go and bring maybe a business shoes for you, right, rather than sports shoes.
Correct.
Right? You need to be very explicit while giving a command to LLM or to anyone.
Okay, got it. Now coming back to hallucinations. So if you would want to throw some light on what hallucinations are all about and how are they relevant to this paradigm?
So again, I will start with the fundamental and basic of LLMs. LLMs, as said, large language model. It has been trained on a huge corpus of data, right? It has been fed onto the data of Murari Desai as well as Narendra Modi.
Correct.
Right? So it has been fed with a huge context of the data, and that's where you must have seen the model size. Llama, 70 billion, 405 billion. So these are the number of parameters which have been fed while training the model, right? Since it has been fed with a huge information, and even if I will have that much information and if I not have a context, I will hallucinate. Without understanding the concept, I will respond something. Though sometimes hallucinations help in creativity, right? So hallucination is something like, I would say, the randomness of generating the output. Okay, so if you have not given a proper context, it will go ahead and generate something random which may not be helpful for you. And that was the problem. when the LLM started. Now I think by and large most of the LLMs are supporting groundings and other, which helps hallucination, but still since it has been trained on a huge set of corpus of the data, definitely this problem will be there. It cannot be eliminated.
And we are talking about personal assistant and now hallucination, so it is more or more human centric in its nature as well. You just mentioned a term called grounding. Would you want to explain it a bit?
Sure. So see, grounding is something you are feeding your own data so that, okay, so let me again start with an example over here, right? So in your world or maybe in IT world, when we say rate, right? Rate could be multiple different rates. It could be interest rate. It could be your project run rate, right? What is your costing, ARR, etc., right? So what happens if you are not giving the context, right? The model will hallucinate. You will say, tell me the rate of maybe XYZ, and it can sell you some random data because it has trained on huge set of context of the data.
Mm-hmm.
Coming back to the grounding, now I feeded my PDF to the LLM and I said that please help me to find the rate. It will go and only look into that document which you have fed and then get the response from that document so that your response does not hallucinate. It will always be grounded based on to the document, based on the data, based on to the database repository which you have fed, and then it will work into your context. One of the very important thing with the grounding is you can go ahead and feed your own set of information so that even though it is going for hallucination, it will be not beyond your data set.
Okay.
So whatever you have fed it will go ahead and again in the rate example which I have told you, there could be two rates into a PDF, but it will again not go hallucinate beyond your document which you have fed it.
Okay, got it. So nowadays there is a lot of talk around different models, like let's take an example, GPT, Gemini, Llama. So what are the specific use cases of these, or if they are like general large language models, if there is anything which you want to talk about them?
Sure. So what I say is, and this is my common sentence which I repeat in almost all the talks and webinar, is that there is a model war going on. If I sleep in the night and wake up in the morning, I don't know how many new models will be available, right? And that is what is going on right nowadays. Everyone is trying to release new models with new capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
One of the very important thing is the reasoning capability. So all these LLMs should have a very powerful reasoning capability, and generally they are evaluated based on a couple of parameters like reasoning, MMLU, etc., etc. So there are so many models available in the market, and like anyone else, even I am also confused sometimes what to use when.
Okay.
Right? And hence it's very important to understand your use case, which model fits perfectly with your use case. Consider, I'll talk about the image generation model. There are so many image generation model,
Yeah.
right? Stable diffusion, DALI, mid journey, etc., right? You need to understand that which model is working best for you. It may be possible that one of the model is very good in unrealistic image generation. Second could be very good in generating a realistic image. Some could be good in maybe very good in painting type of design, right? So depending on what the outcome you are looking for, you need to go ahead and use that model. Since we are talking about IT space or software,
Mm-hmm.
one of the very close use case within our software developer mind is code generation.
Correct.
And I have seen Anthropic model, which is Sonnet model, Cloud is one of the best when it comes to code generation.
Okay.
Right? Though there are multiple agentic flow, and we'll talk about that, but when it comes to code generation, I have seen Anthropic model works best. So, as I said, depends on use cases, whether you are looking for generation, summarization, automation, image generation, video generation, you can go ahead and pick and choose depending on the model output or outcome and use it in your actual use cases.
So when you said entropic model, this is a kind of model which we are talking about.
Yes, so Anthropic is like a superset. It's a company which makes different type of model. Cloud is one of the models, CLAUD, and under that there are multiple forms. Like in Llama we have 3.1, 3.2, 3.3. Like that we have so many models as part of Anthropic. Anthropic is like a well-known company who made this LLM. So there are cloudy models which are there, and these models capability is very powerful when it comes to code generation.
So, with traditional technologies, right? We have been using it for, because most of these models are very helpful when we are talking about something which is like a migration, right? So there are some traditional languages which are now dying, and for some reason we'll have to migrate to new age technologies in terms of applications also which we are creating. So, do these models understand? So the basic problem which I have seen with this is that these models have only an understanding of two programming languages. Let's suppose it is one end it is Java, the other end it is traditional Java GWT based, the other one is like suppose C++ or modernized languages, right? Or JavaScript, do they understand the context of the design patterns also of these two different languages, and can they do a conversion like that, or they just do a code to code conversion?
Okay, so see, as I said, this is the fastest technology I have seen ever in my experience, right? So there is a huge evolution is happening onto the code generation side of it also.
Okay.
GitHub Copilot, and I was in Satya's Visit AI tool, right? And I was amazed to see the GitHub workspace where it can go ahead and translate the code. Consider you deployed already application and you missed admin panel for that.
Mm-hmm.
With the same code base, you have given few prompts, a few commands, and to surprise that is in your local language. Could be Marathi, could be Kannada, anything. It go change the code base also and then deploy the new code base wherever. So let me give you an example. Consider there is 20 tables which are getting impacted due to that change. It goes and try to change that all 20 files within that code repository and make sure that the new versions have been created and deployed using the pipeline, which is a CI/CD pipeline, and the new website is up. Okay. So definitely there is a lot of such use cases which are coming up with the help of this LLM, generative AI, Copilot, and the code generation technologies.
So now let's talk about the next evolution of the language models and the latest trends in this field. Can you talk about SLMs a bit, and how are they gaining traction these days?
Sure, I think very good point, Parijat. Definitely SLMs are the next league which everybody is talking about. So again, I will go back a little bit. So we talked about LLM. It needs a huge corpus of data, quite big compute. Not all organization can spend that much, right? And that is the biggest challenge. There are multiple techniques in order to reduce the size of that model. Since we are talking about large language models, maybe let's talk about Llama, right, which is 430 billion. So at least you need a huge compute just to deploy and get that model running. Now the next step to that is, do we need that large model, or do we need that big model? May not be, right? Because my task is very simple. I just need a LLM to write an email. What it will do with the 100 GB of knowledge of the entire world? It just need my email context and generate an email for me. And
Okay.
that is where the world is going towards, which is called an SLM, small language model.
Okay.
Which is very specific to the task which you are looking for. Generally, you will see these SLMs can be deployed on edge, can be deployed on small compute, so that it can only target or solve that particular problem.
Okay.
Let me give you an example. You may have a lot of friends. There could be one friend who has the entire IT or software knowledge. He may be knowing Java, React.js, data, everything. But you may have somebody who just know AI. So that is what the difference between the LLM and SLM is.
Okay.
So you are talking about a very specialized model who brings only the capability or the knowledge which is very specific to that particular domain. This models will be very popular for manufacturing, healthcare type of domains, because you are looking forward to solve a very particular problem, a very particular domain specific challenges, and that's where this SLM will come into the picture.
Okay.
What you do when you design this SLM, you take a large language model, you do a lot of different types of techniques are there. You can do the supervised tuning, you can do the RLHF, you can do the distillation, and then transfer the learning between the large model to the smaller model, and then the smaller model, which is SLM, can further be deployed on any of the edge device or to the smaller compute to serve your purpose.
Okay. So, as far as I am understanding, these are made for specific use cases, right? Why not talk about some of the use cases and places where you have actually implemented an SLM?
Sure. My journey has been interesting so far in while I came into that world, right? And people looks me as a, like, what will say, professional or ambassador of generative AI.
Yes.
So you definitely need to know that what is going on into the world.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a couple of interesting use cases which I have implemented in my journey so far. And it may not be just SLM. SLMs, as I said, is for very particular specific tasks, but let me talk a little bit around the LLM side of it. So there was a t-shirt company which get the logo printed or maybe design printed onto the t-shirt.
Oh, I know this one. We had spoken about it
Yes.
in the past. Yes.
So generally what happens when you go that, you give that option to the user, you may have maybe a 50,000 images library or maybe 1 lakh image library, and you restrict people to select the images from that. I want Spider-Man in yellow and flying on top of mountain. There's no image for that.
Yeah.
How I can do that?
Yeah.
So that's where the large language model plays a very important role. So there's a model text to image where you can give this prompt and then image will be generated, which can further be printed onto the t-shirt depending on your size, depending on the t-shirt color, and shipped to your place. Very, very innovative and unique use cases.
Okay.
Right? Think of any grocery application, right? And as you rightly said, that virtual agent, right? So that is a very common use case which you see across the industry. It basically, with the help of agentic workflow in LLM, right, it allows you to go ahead and create your customized cart. It starts with generating the recipe. You go to the chatbot and you say that I want to eat paneer chili. It says that, okay, paneer chili, you need paneer, this is the recipe, this is what. The next question bot asks is that, do you have paneer with you? You say no. How many people? 2 people. 200 gram paneer is added into your cart. The next question it asks, you have onion, you have sauces, etc. And then a customized cart is created for you, which is further can be shipped or can be very, very personalized for that particular product which you want to eat, and then delivered it to your place. Okay.
Right.
Very, very unique use case and implementation from the language model. Further to that, if you talk about manufacturing soft flow, right, the main problem there is the language. Okay, so most of those soft flow workers understand their native languages. With the power of this NLP based LLMs, that feature can be unblocked. You allow user or the software worker to go ahead and natively talk in their language and get the resolution of the problem which they are facing.
Okay.
Very, very impactful use cases. Recently, again, we have unblocked one of the use cases for farmer, where we are trying to understand the different types of soil composition and helping them to grow the crops at a very, very fast pace and very, very peak, production. So again, it impacted not only from the domain side of it, but also when it comes to the productivity, it is helping a lot to software developer. One of the common question I get every time, that is my job is safe.
Yeah.
With this much fast pace,
I might have asked you the same.
yeah. So with the fast innovation which is going on in this space, what is the future? Definitely, my recommendation to everyone over there is learn generative AI or start adopting using or start making generative AI your friend. If you will not make it as a friend in your day-to-day work, definitely you will be obsolete someday. So whatever you are doing, maybe you are taking 8 hours, with generative AI you can do it in 6 hours and then spend that 2 hours in the learning. And that is what the recommendation or the knowledge or the gyan which I give to everyone.
Then, like the NVIDIA CEO said, right? And, AI is not going to replace you. Somebody using AI might.
Correct.
So, Murari, now let's get into the ethical part of AI, right? Ethics in AI is very important. Some of these biases, misinformations generated from language models can be really critical. Would you want to talk about them a bit?
Okay, so again, I will cite certain example which has happened in the past, right? And maybe everybody will be well known about that. That there was something from the biasness side happened when this large language model came in, right?
Correct.
Responsible AI and all those features are also very very important, because as far as they are useful, they could be destructive as well.
Yeah.
Right. So definitely the right guardrails, safety filters, and everything need to be applied for the safer use of these LLMs. So let me talk about that little bit, right? So responsible AI definitely allow you to put that guardrail safety, so that you whatever content is generated is well vetted and may not be vulgar, may not go beyond a certain boundary which you have defined. So that is one very important thing. The second part to that is, since we are talking about that, it needs a lot of data. One of the dilemma all the organization is that, Murari, I will put my data and your model will learn from that. It doesn't happen like that, right? It is trained onto the public data set. When I say public data set, whatever data is available on internet. Though you feed your data, there is a guardrail which has been created so that your data cannot go outside and it will be within your premises. So whatever you are generating, or whatever the automation or the information or the content you are generating within your document or within your data will reside into your premises, is not going outside. Okay, because people think that the data can be used for fine tuning the LLM, can be reused, and this has happened in the past also when the ChatGPT came, right?
Yeah.
So you must have seen certain examples
Yeah.
where
All of us have.
yeah. So that's where there are multiple guardrails when it comes to biasness, right? A model has been trained in a huge, I would say, distributed data set, so that biasness element also can be eliminated.
Okay.
But again, as I said, there are evolutions or there are fine tuning, and there are a lot of things are happening again onto that space to make sure that they comply with the responsible AI principle, ethical considerations, and give you the best result by providing these guardrails.
I mean, any specific initiatives, frameworks in this direction which you are aware of, which we can learn from you?
Definitely. So, as I said, there are multiple such libraries, or I would say the framework which are available, right? So, one of the thing which generally you will see is grounding, right? So, grounding definitely helps you to make sure that the data is grounded. Okay, so maybe let me give you an example over here.
Like
right?
when a child is grounded.
Yeah, so so when I am saying that, consider maybe you ask something which model may not have the knowledge of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely it can go and hallucinate. Okay,
Okay.
it may try to break or think of something outside boundary, right, and can impact onto the ethical or responsible AI consideration, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the thing which I will say is, in the image generation model, if you go ahead and try to give a prompt saying that please generate an image of kid, I have seen that happening with couple of models, that it will not generate the image of that kid, because you don't know what that image can be used for, and that is what is quite responsible here.
Awesome. Which is very important, because deepfakes have been a real concern these days, and we have seen so many deepfakes floating around.
That's
So you are more or less talking on that.
Yes, so that is where the ethical and responsibleness is very very important aspect, along with the technology. Otherwise, as I said, as much as it is helpful, the same way it can be destructive as well.
Okay. And when we are talking about the famous models like Gemini, GPT-4 or Llama, are these specific models or these specific companies putting guardrails on it?
So all these models by default come with a responsible AI, or I would say the ethical framework by
Okay.
default. Okay, so definitely all these things are taken care when any organization release the model.
Okay.
Okay, if I talk about Gemini, Google believes on 7 responsible AI framework or the pillars. So be social, beneficial, etc., etc. So all those principles are being followed within that particular model.
Okay.
Similarly, with Llama, they follow certain very specific responsible AI and ethical principles, and with ChatGPT. So all these models are governed and guarded by those organizations responsible AI and the ethical policies. Otherwise, again, it could be blunder to use those models as well.
Correct, correct. I mean, I'm sure I can talk to you for the entire day about these things and we will still not be over with. But at the interest of time, I'll have to bring us to one important topic, which is your journey in this field. And how is your journey in this field moved from understanding it, implementing it, and then thinking about the future of it? So let's talk about firstly your journey, and then 5 years from now, where do you see these technologies evolving?
I think 5 years will be too long, but let me start with my journey, right? Because even I don't know what will going to happen with me in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So this is a very volatile world we are in.
Correct.
So my journey has been, I would say, quite interesting, right? One of the things which I am very much passionate about learning, and
Correct.
that's what you can see in my entire experience. I started with traditional data warehousing, moved to big data, to machine learning, to generative AI.
Correct.
I definitely feel that God is with me, and that's where I am like working in top-notch organization and solving very, very complex industry-specific challenges, right? When it comes to the technology as well as the business problem. So definitely, if I talk about my journey, right, when this technology started, right, everybody was jumping without knowing that what could be delivered with this technology. Okay, so it started with a lot of interest from CXOs, CEOs,
Okay.
organizations, and trying to adopt as soon as possible.
Mhm.
They wanted to make sure that we should be the first organization to implement this.
Yeah.
But later on, they started realizing.
Yeah, it was a rat race in the beginning, and then it got into a little stable version.
Yes, so it started, maybe people started, organizations started realizing that yes, there are certain limitations and there are certain specific things where this technology can, or this LLMs can work better. And that was the second phase where maybe people started realizing. And the third phase, I would say, is the MVP. Okay, so it all started with POCs and MVPs, right? At one particular time, I would say somewhere 2022 or starting out 2023, everyone was saying that it's just a POC technology. Nothing will go into the production.
Yeah.
But I was very clear that yes, it has a impact making type of potential, right? So definitely in some areas, it can help business to grow 2x, 3x, 4x as well.
Correct.
And that is where you need to find out the key pain area and then focus on trying to take those use cases and implement it into the production. Now, I would say mid last year, I would say Q2 from last year, there are few use cases which are going into production, and people are started realizing the value of it. And as I said, right, from concept to production in just 8 to 9 months, I have not seen any technology doing that.
Correct.
But that's where the generative AI is, right? So it allows you to go ahead and do the concept thinking, discovery, prototyping, and then finally into the production. So as of now, I would say I have implemented multiple use cases which are running in production, and definitely there are new things or new innovations towards agentic SLMs which are going to come in future.
Okay. So since we are talking on a SEAP podcast, I can't not mention Pune. What is your first memory of Pune? And if you want to share with all of us.
Sure, I think good point. Means I would say definitely it has been almost 20-25 years for me in Pune, right? And I carry a lot of good memories, right? So I started here in Wadia College and completed my higher secondary, followed by engineering at D.Y. Patil. My unique memory with Pune is, I would say, the environment or the atmosphere, right? So it's pretty good, right? So when you wake up in the morning, you still feel cold, but when you sleep in the night, you still need a fan at one or two speed.
Yeah.
So that is what is very unique about Pune, and that makes a Pune complete different city where you can go ahead and maybe enjoy the weather as well as enjoy the surroundings, enjoy the food, right? Pretty good food. We talk about misal pav, etc. Right? So very interesting food combination which you'll enjoy here at Pune.
Okay. Thank you so much. And before we end, any note to our listeners?
The last thing which I would convey as part of this podcast is please go ahead and pick these technologies, right? They are not going to impact you. If you will not pick this generative AI or LLM, definitely you will be impacted. But these technologies are there to help you. So please go ahead and start using it in your day-to-day work.
Thanks, Murari.